Hello, everybody. It is June 12th, 2022, and we are here one more time for another episode of LiveLARGEUniverse. And so we want all of you to come on in and let us know where you're watching from. So this first minute or so of the show is when we get the live audience who's coming in to watch this live. We've got them coming in, and so as they do, I see some numbers, some counts coming in now. So if you're just joining us now on the live episode, your job right now, if you're watching this, is to go into the comments right now below and tell us where you're watching from. And when you do that, that drops your name. We know now where you're watching from, and we can start engaging in a conversation. And by the way, that gets you in to win this amazing prize pack. So we've got two saws here from Mountain Lab Gear. They've got two hand saws, a hand chainsaw, as well as just a hand folding saw. Both of those saws are up for grabs. They're the show sponsor tonight. And so get in here, drop a comment, you'll be entered in to win. And please, please share the show out, because Kolbie is here tonight to tell us all about her racing career. She's a 19-year-old female racer here in, I think, Eastern Washington, but she's right over on the border with Idaho. We'll learn more about that in just a minute, but 19-year-old racer. And tonight we're going to deep dive into asphalt snowmobile drag racing, one of the topics I have never covered on this show yet. So we're going to have an amazing, amazing show. Jump in. Again, let us know in the comments where you're watching from, and please share the show out. We're going to have an amazing time. So let me go ahead and kill the music, and I'm going to bring you Kolbie here in just a second. So Kolbie, you can come off mute now, and we're going to uncover your face here in 3, 2, and 1. Hey, Kolbie, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
Good, good. I can't tell you, I'm so excited to have you on the show finally.
I am super excited as well. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, you're very, very welcome. So this is going to be a great episode. We're going to dive into some, you're only 19 years old, and we're going to go into kind of your history of racing, your family history of racing. You've been racing dirt bikes a little bit, but mostly snowmobile racing. Been doing oval racing, asphalt racing, which is, when I saw that post you posted here a while back, I'm like, oh, we have to get you on to talk about asphalt drag racing and all the cool stuff that goes with that. But amazing. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, and then I'm going to go ahead and then tell everybody how I bumped into you at the Spokane Snow Show, and I've got a little story I want to tell about when the first time I bumped into you. But just give us a quick rundown of who is Kolbie, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. Well, hi, I'm Kolbie Cloke. I'm from the Lewis-Clark Valley, kind of like on the border of Washington and Idaho.
Nice.
I've been riding snowmobiles since I was 6 months old. And then I got to drive my own snowmobile when I was about 5 years old. It was a little Yamaha. On top of racing and all that kind of stuff, I really enjoy being in the mountains and building my pickup and hunting with my dad. So I do a lot of everything.
Yep.
And I am the second oldest of 5 kids.
Wow.
So
big family. That's great.
Yeah, lots of little ones, but yeah, I've got a lot of different hobbies, but racing has definitely taken over my top.
Yeah. One that I didn't know anything about, and I'd love to hear just a touch more about it, is building your truck. What kind of truck do you have, and what have you been doing to it?
So I've got a 1995 T100.
Okay.
It's been my dream to have a Toyota because my dad's always had really nice ones.
Yeah.
So I've been slowly building it. I've been, with everything going on with the pandemic, waiting on parts. So a bumper, headache rack, and all that kind of stuff.
So are you going to be out legit off-roading it, or is it going to be a pavement princess? Now, come on, be honest.
I'd like to say it'd be a pavement princess, but I really like going mudding. Yep. So it's got 33s on it that are big. They're mud tires that I run, and so
very cool.
Mine is fun with it.
Very cool. So my wife Edith and I, who I think you also met at the snow show, we were just out all day with the local Sammamish Jeep Club, and we were out jeeping all day and mudding and having a good time, doing a little rock crawling and stuff too, and had a great time with some people out too. So I'm a big fan of off-roading too, so you'll have to get together sometime and get out there and tear up some mud.
That would be fun.
Very cool, very cool. Well, let me tell everybody a little bit about how I first met you and how I ran into you, because it's, from my point of view, and I think everybody will enjoy this, it was an amazing story. So I was at the Spokane Snow Show just this last fall, and it was after the Brett Rasmussen show, right? You approached Brett after his presentation, right? And so we were at the Spokane Snow Show, and I was helping Brett, kind of announce and get him teed up to get the audience over there, and to do his little presentation that he does at a lot of the snow shows all over the country. And as we were doing that, the show wrapped up, and as the show wrapped up, I was still kind of hanging out, with my wife and a couple of friends and stuff. And I noticed that, Kolbie, and was it a friend or one of your sisters? I can't remember who was with you at the time. It was a friend or
my cousin.
Oh, your cousin.
With me. Yep, she races with me, but only in the ovals.
Yeah. So I had seen you, and I had no idea who you were at the time, but I had seen you over there talking to Brett, and we're really engaged in a deep conversation, which it struck me as a little odd because I'll be honest with you, when I see a 19-year-old person, now 19, you were probably 18 at the time, and Brett is in the snowmobile industry, one of the more senior members out there, and I could just tell in the conversation you were extremely engaged, and you were asking him questions, and you were listening and learning. And it just struck me immediately as like, wow, this is somebody who really understands how this industry works, of getting in there, talking to somebody, learning what you can, building relationships, building your network at 18 years old. And you were just engaged and enthralled in that conversation. And I just happened to kind of come up because frankly, I wanted to talk to Brett a little bit too about something. And I was overhearing some of your conversation. And at one point I finally had to step in and introduce myself. And we got to know each other a little bit there in just that time. And we've been staying in touch over time. And then ultimately here about, 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago, maybe you had posted some pictures of your Asphalt drag sled on Facebook. And I reached out to you and I'm like, hey, this would be a really cool topic to deep dive into the show. And so go back to that Spokane show and tell us a little bit about what you were asking Brett about. Do you remember that conversation and kind of the things you were trying to get from him and understand from him, and the conversation you had? Like, give everybody a little insight to why you approached Brett after the show that day.
Well, I really look up to Brett, and
Yeah.
it's just like the coolest thing to get the chance to meet him. So I had to take advantage of that opportunity, but I also wanted to talk to him about kind of like how to help get my name out there. And my we used to be sponsored by Skidoo. We were part of Team Skidoo, and so I've kind of had the dream of being there again. And so I just kind of asked if there was anything I could do to help promote myself to
Yeah.
get there. And then I also was talking to him about his Ride Rasmussen style.
Yeah.
Sorry if I get his last name wrong.
No,
But,
that's perfect. Actually, perfect. You hit it.
Perfect. I always say it wrong when I don't mean to. But I've watched like all of his videos trying to learn how to deal with my sled and stuff. And then I was also in the middle of rebuilding a sled that we bought, and so I wanted to ask him about his relocation kits and some other things. And so I had a million questions and really wanted to meet him. And so yeah.
Yeah, it was a cool experience for you, and for me to observe that, I felt like was a very unique experience, right? Usually, if someone walks up to him and they just want his autograph and then they kind of want to move on, type of thing. But the conversation, the questions you guys had, I was really intrigued by it, and much respect for you. And it maybe sounds odd, but like to me, at 18 years old, the maturity you showed in that discussion, that conversation, and to me, that told me that you're somebody who absolutely understands the industry and is going to have a bright future in this industry, whether as a backcountry rider or as a racer or both, right, type of thing. So I see big things for you personally as you move forward in your racing and snowmobile career. So.
Well, thank you. It means a lot.
Yeah, no problem at all. And so I know one of the things I overheard in that conversation, which really jumped out at me, is that you said in that conversation with Brett that your grandmother was a racer and you kind of been following in their footsteps. And as I've gotten to know you more, I've understood that both of your grandparents have been involved in snowmobile racing for years. Can you kind of go back and tell us a little bit about who your grandparents are and the history behind what they've done? And let's go deep into that a little bit too, because I think there's some really intriguing, touch points on that conversation. So.
Yeah, so my grandpa is Mike Cloke and my grandma is Janet Cloke. Actually, this is a picture of my grandma on my sled.
That's awesome.
Back when it was hers. But they started in 1994-ish with my dad and my uncle alongside with them. And they started out doing snowcross, and they did that for a really long time until my dad broke his foot and my grandma broke her ankle really bad. So she was like, I'm done. And then they kind of picked up on grass drag racing and hill climbing, and we've done little things to keep ourselves in with the racing. And then like my grandma, she's the first female over the White Pass hill climb, which I don't know if a lot of people are familiar with that
Yeah.
anymore because they don't do it. But she was the first, and as far as we know, the only female that ever made it over
Wow.
the top.
That's amazing.
And yeah, and then she also placed fourth at the Jackson Hole hill climb, in the part where you have to be invited to
Okay.
participate. And
Okay.
I can't remember the class she ran in, but she placed fourth that year, and I don't remember the year.
Yeah.
But she's done a lot of amazing things as a woman in our industry, so I really look up to her. And like I remember the first time they took us to a drag race.
Yeah.
I begged them. I was like, please, can we please get junior dragster things? I was like, can I please race one? And they wouldn't let me.
Oh, funny.
It's because of my mom was like, it's dangerous. You can't do it.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
so, yeah, they've always been a huge inspiration to
Yeah.
me. I mean, you can't always say like my grandma, she races, she
Yeah,
has all
usually
these.
people say like my grandma got ran over by a reindeer, just like the song on the radio, right? Now you get to say like, hey, my grandma is completely a bad to the bone snowmobile racer. Like that's pretty amazing. Like not many people get to say that in the world. So
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. And she would still be doing it if her body would allow her to, but because of the hardcore snowcross racing and
yeah,
everything, she's had multiple shoulder surgeries now, and so she can't hold on as tight as she needs to.
got it.
So she goes, and she's my number one fan. So
That's awesome. They're extremely proud of you. I had an opportunity to kind of meet both your grandparents virtually on the video call, just like this, earlier in the week. And, we were talking about kind of getting ready for the show, but they were there with you at the time, and I got to talk with them too. And it was, you can tell you guys have a very close relationship, and, they're bursting at the seams, proud of you for what you're accomplishing in the industry so far. So keep up the great work. And, that to have, family members that support you and are excited for you as you are to be in it. It's something you should treasure, and I'm sure you know how lucky you are that for you to have the gratitude that you have for what you're doing and understand in the moment how meaningful it is. Like that's something that a lot of people don't always have that perspective. So good for you.
I'm very thankful for all the support because my mom, she supports me now. She loves it. So
Yep, that's
I'm
very
very.
cool. Yep, yep. Is your parents involved in racing a little bit, or like how do they get? Are they involved? Have they ever raced themselves?
Well, my dad, he raced with Tucker Hibbard, I believe his
Ah,
name. My dad almost beat him, but my dad was a very talented racer. Like it's
okay,
always come very naturally for him, and so he did it for He ran in the juniors class or something and had a chance at going pro or advancing from there,
okay,
but because of the broken bones, they decided not to. And then he ended up enlisting in the army, so he wasn't here.
got it.
And my mom, she's never raced, but she's been supportive of it now that we're a little older. And then she also she supports my brother's racing,
Oh,
so
nice, cool.
he goes across. So
Yeah. Yeah, you were telling me before the call here tonight that you have a pretty large family. Tell us a little bit about your siblings and your immediate family.
So I have five. Well, I'm the second oldest of five. I have an older sister. She doesn't live here. She lives out of town. And then I've
Okay.
got three younger siblings, and there's four girls and one boy. So my little brother is gonna be good with girls.
There you
And
go.
then I've got three steps. Yeah. So
Very
I've
good.
got quite a few of them, and I love them all to pieces.
That's awesome. Good for you. Well, let's dive in a little bit to the different types of racing you do, and let's just go ahead and start out with the what you do on your dirt bike, and then we'll go into the snow stuff immediately after that. So, just give us a quick high level of what you're doing with dirt bike racing nowadays.
So I don't do as much as I'd like to. I do a few races here and there. I just recently did the Odessa 100 with my grandpa and my dad by my side, and we finished it. As a female, I only did 50 miles, and my grandpa did 50. And my dad, he did 50 and didn't qualify as a finisher because he didn't do the full 100.
Got it.
It took us about 5 hours, and it was a lot of fun. There was many challenges in it. And it made me realize how much I love my little 230 that I have.
Yeah.
And I raced a couple of times in Clarkia, and I wanted to pursue more of a motocross race career with it, but I couldn't do both drag racing and motocross, and I chose drag racing.
Yeah.
So I still get out and I ride in the mountains and stuff quite a bit.
Very good. Very cool. And then you also do ice ovals. So not only just standard ice ovals, but vintage ice ovals. And so I'm sure there's a little bit of a story as to why the vintage part of it. Is it, I'm going to make an assumption here. Is it because you had race sleds available to you that maybe your grandparents were racing before? Or did you just decide, I don't know, I'm going to quit guessing. You tell us why you're in ice oval vintage racing versus, say, a modern ice oval racing.
Honestly, we the first sled I ever rode by myself was a ET 340, which is the
Okay.
vintage sled that I race now. So we've always had those kind of sleds, and my grandparents, they would go like here and there years ago to these races, and then they kind of stopped going. And then I told them, like, I want to kind of get into racing, and they're like, here's a good entry level. Well, they didn't realize that I was gonna take it as far as I did because they're like, here's one sled you can run in this class and
Yeah.
go every once in a while. Well, it turned into, I need a faster sled. I want to this class, and this class. And
Nice.
so we ended up purchasing a 1980 something 440 and SS 440. So I raced both Yamahas for that.
Yeah. The picture
And then
we shared of the kind of the teaser post that we shared earlier this week, it looked like it was like is it an SRV or an SS or something like that, 440, the old Yamaha. Like there was people, I don't know if you saw it in the comments, there were people like, oh, that was my first sled I've ever ridden. That was awesome. So
yeah, it's an SS 440, and
got it.
so, but it's set up. I run it in a stock class, so it's
Okay.
stock as stock as it can. Like, we've changed what we could to keep it in the stock, and then we
Yeah.
also run it in the super stock class, which it keeps up. It does great. I can't run aluminum extruded skis, which I would do way better if I had them, but I
Yeah.
can't. So I really have to fight in that class, which is
Yeah.
always actually a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, so the 340, because my grandma, she still does the vintage ovals
Oh,
with
she
me.
does too?
Yeah, because it's not as intense as the drag racing. You don't really
Yeah.
have that like initial pressure
Yeah.
against
Yeah.
you. And so she'll do it with me. And the 340 that she's racing now is the 340 that I learned how to ride on.
Very
So
cool.
it's kind of cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like it was kind of an inexpensive way for you to get into racing and the family to be able to support you without breaking the bank. It's kind of, seemed like the thing. And then now it's kind of just stuck. Like it sounds like you've been having a lot of fun with it. And, the races that you go to, the vintage races, are they also at the same races racing more modern machines? Is it like kind of a vintage class and then a standard class? Or is it when you go racing, is it just an oval series for vintage sleds only?
So it's just the ones that I usually go to are just vintage because it's
Got
the
it.
pre-sled vintage ovals, and then we've got like the championship type deal. And then recently over in Baker City, outside of Baker, I think,
Okay.
somewhere in Oregon, they've started doing one, but they don't do it on ice, so it's just snow.
Oh, wow.
Uh, and it turns kind of into a snowcross going in an oval, which
Okay.
gets interesting because those sleds don't have any suspension.
I know. Used to ride one back in the day.
It's crazy. There's a picture of my sled not even on the ground, and I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I feel how hard that one hit.
Yeah.
But there used to be one in Yellowstone. It was some sort of championship there that they kind of did your vintage and then
Yeah.
newer. And then if you go, I can't remember the name of it, but I think over in Michigan, there's
Okay.
a really big one. I'm blanking on the name, but they do the vintage and the newer stuff. And I
Right.
actually raced with, his name's Cody Storo, and he's raced over there, and he was so close to winning, but he dislocated or something with his shoulder, so he couldn't finish.
Wow.
But he does the Priest Lake vintage with us.
Wow.
So
Okay. Very cool. So, Kolbie, the next thing I want to go into is the asphalt drag racing, and I kind of want to go deep into this because this is really unique. We haven't ever covered this on the show before, but before we do, I just want to remind everybody in the audience who's watching, if you're watching tonight, please go do me a favor and just drop your, your name will pop up as you drop in where you're watching from. So, if you're watching from, if you're one of Kolbie's friends and you're watching from Idaho, Washington area, or there's people on here I know that like Todd Swing is from Minnesota. I've got Cameron Beck, who he might be in California, but he actually might be in Costa Rica. He moved down there. He's a snowmobiler from California area, but he moved down to Costa Rica and is doing living down there now too. And so Cameron Beck, shout out to you for watching. Let us know if you're watching from Costa Rica. That'd be cool to know. And then we have Spokane, Washington. We have folks from Massachusetts on. California, like all over the country, we got people watching tonight, excluding some of your friends and family are on as well. And so let us know in the comments where you're watching from, and please share the show out. Again, we want to kind of get this message out to help, Kolbie, get a little visibility in the snowmobile world because she's doing some amazing things and inspiring. We'll learn a little bit later more about this, but inspiring a lot of other young female athletes that are maybe coming up through the ranks and some fans out there too. We'll talk about that maybe after we talk about asphalt drag racing. But let's go into asphalt drag racing because, something, and I don't even know if you know this, Kolbie, but, asphalt drag racing has actually become pretty popular around the country. In my hometown of Brainerd, Minnesota, is one of the locations that asphalt drag racing actually originated. It was probably one of the first places that they've ever raced snowmobiles on asphalt was right in my hometown of Brainerd, Minnesota. It's one of the NHRA racetracks that are on the big NHRA circuit. And when I used to do photography at the racetrack there, way back 20 plus years ago, we'd have asphalt drag sleds, hitting those tracks there too. And the speeds are incredible, the machines are incredible. But this concept of taking a machine built for snow and turning it into something that is as fast or faster in some cases than cars and snowmobile or motorcycles and all kinds of things, it's pretty big adrenaline rush. And I know you're going to go into this in detail, but let's just tee this up right away. You just got certified, right, for a certain speed level. Tell us about that first, and then let's go back into the racing. But you had to qualify and become certified, right, for a certain high speed runs. Tell us about that part of it.
So I had to apply to get my NHRA membership license, and so we did that, and it was a Class 7, I believe, license, and so I could only go so fast with that, and it was not fast enough, pretty much, and so I had to go and do 6 licensing runs. There was 4 moderates and 2 full passes. So a moderate run is pretty much you just don't go the full length of the track, and I was doing it on an 8th. So I would just get out before the finish line and let it coast the rest of the way.
Okay.
And so in order to get the license that I needed, which is a Class 6, it makes it so that I can go 160 miles an hour.
That's moving. That's moving in a quarter mile.
It's moving. But to do that, I had to do a full pass in 6.39 seconds.
Wow.
Yeah. And so it was challenging because the sled was set up originally for my grandmother.
Okay.
And just body styles are different. The way that the sled handles with each person is completely different. Similar to a mountain sled,
Yeah.
I have to set the suspension specifically for who's racing.
Yep.
We didn't realize that we needed a new track on it at the time. But it was tricky, and so it was my last run that I had to make for the day to get that licensing, and I did it in a 6.38. So I just barely made it, but we made it, and so now I can race at the NHRA level.
That's amazing. That's a big deal. Congratulations. That's huge.
Thank you.
Yep. That's very cool. Very cool. And then let's also talk now about what do you wear for that kind of racing. I don't know that a lot of people understand what the safety gear is that's required for you to wear. So start head to toe. What are you wearing when you're doing 160 miles an hour down the drag strip? So
I obviously wear a helmet, and it's like a full face helmet, and it has to be Snell approved.
Yep.
So I had to find one that I liked, and then we custom ordered a full set of leathers, so it's like a bodysuit pretty much. And it's completely leather, and then it's got elbow pads, it's got a chest protector, and then a spine protector, and then it's got hip pads and knee pads, butt pads, like literally head to toe padded.
Yeah. It's the same kind of race outfit that like a professional motorcycle drag racer, like the NHRA drag racers, it's the same kind of outfit that they wear. And I actually have a friend who has done professional motorcycle drag racing for many years, and he's had them before too. And like he actually has had his motorcycle burst into flames and blow up, you know, on the track doing 160 miles an hour. And so, you know, that's the moment that you appreciate all the safety gear that you're wearing when that stuff like that happens. So.
Or if something happens and you have to get off the sled, you know, I'd rather be safe. They can get a little uncomfortable, especially when it's extremely hot outside, but safety comes first. But I actually just got a new pair of boots. They're Core-Tech street bike boots that I'm really excited to wear. I was wearing a pair of motocross boots, but they're so high that they hit the knee pad in my leathers, so I had to find something smaller. But
Got it.
And I have to wear gloves with a certain, I'm blanking on the name, but it has to have a type of armor in them. And then they have to be leather. And so I believe I'm running a pair of FXR and then a pair of, not FXR, I don't know, a Core-Tech one, and then some other brand that I found at the snow show.
There you go. There you go. Well, let's start with what is the snowmobile that you're racing? Like let's start with what was the original snowmobile before it turned into a drag sled? What was it? It's a Skidoo, right? So let's start with that, and then we'll talk into how you've had to modify it over the years to get it ready to race. And so what kind of snowmobile is it that you're racing?
So it's actually a 1998 Mach Z, and so it's just the regular Mach Z. We didn't do anything with the chassis of it. What we've done is changed, like the motor is a 809, which is a Rotex, so it's a Skidoo motor. It's a triple, so triple everything, you know, carburetor, all of it. And then we had it, it was Paul McLeod at Union Bay. He did a whole bunch of work on it and made it so that it would go faster. I'm not sure exactly what all work he did on it, but I know that it's a Union Bay built motor after Rotex built the type deal. And then we've got an HRP primary and an Arctic Cat secondary. And then our friend Paul Austin, which if anybody who does clutching knows Austin, or Paul. He is an amazing tuner when it comes to that kind of stuff. And so he has done all the tuning on our clutches, and my grandpa maintains it, obviously. And then for suspension, it's all walls. My skis are wall racing. And then there's like, there's wheels in the skis, and those are also walls. And then I've got a Mikuni. I've got 3 Mikuni carburetors in there.
Very cool.
And so, like on a if you were to race a car, you put the drag tires on there that are essentially just bald tires. And so for the track, we remove the stock track, which has lugs on it. We just put a slip on there, so it's just plain old like piece of rubber.
Nope, absolutely. So and I've seen them. So the track, as you described, it's basically a drag slick track. Obviously there's no air in it like a tire would be, but it's just a track, but it just goes around the rear suspension, which the rear suspension, you've gone to you know, all kind of like a bogey wheel setup, if you want to think of it that way. They're probably like rails with wheels in the skid. Is that accurate? So you're getting kind of froze up a little bit. So just
so
there you go.
They're very Are we good? Okay, so like the suspension is very similar to like the stock suspension. It's just set up. I'm not exactly how it's set up, but there's just enough of a difference for the drag racing. This high speed, so it doesn't like rattle apart and break. And
but
so,
it's all wheels under there. There's no like high facts or skids under there that have to be lubricated. It's all just a wheel assembly underneath there. And then
they don't burn.
And then describe the skis on the snowmobile. Obviously, like a traditional snow ski, you would never use on asphalt. And so, talk about the skis. Are they a custom made ski, or they're from like a race company, or like describe the skis that you use and how they work?
So they're an aluminum ski. To me, they look a lot like an aluminum extruded ski, but they're not. They're just an aluminum ski with wheels in them. There's 2 wheels per ski, and they're pretty expensive
Yeah.
per ski. And they're a delicate
Bearing.
wheel you have to be careful with. Like if there's any cracks and you hit it, they'll chip, and so you have to be really careful with them. And they're meant for high speed, so they're
Yeah.
not gonna like fall apart on you. You just have to be very cautious
Yeah.
with what you're hitting on them. But there's 2 per ski, and they just go in there. And so it's not the stock ski; it's an aluminum aftermarket ski that
Yeah.
Walls Racing makes.
Yep, very cool. And yeah, I mean, it's like the wheels in there have to be capable of, traveling at over 160 miles an hour plus probably at this point. And so made
Mhm.
specifically for that. And then, the engine is obviously, performance, set up for the warmer weather, all of that. Is there any other modifications that you've done to the sled? Like, what about the cooling system? Like a snowmobile traditionally cools itself by snow coming up from the track, getting into the tunnel, cooling the machine. Obviously, on an asphalt drag strip, all you have is asphalt and no snow to cool your machine. So talk to us about how you cool your machine and what the cooling system is like.
So obviously, cooling for us is a huge issue because we race in such high temperatures.
Yep.
So we have like this water pump that my grandpa has made that we disconnect hoses that go to the motor, and it just circulates it, and we put colder water in there. And on hot days, we do have to drain the water and put new water in there because the water will get so hot that it can burn you.
Wow.
So you have to be really cautious with it. Even when we're uh, taking it apart,
Yeah.
you can burn yourself. Like, it gets really hot. But then also after we do our full run, there's a switch on there that we can turn on that's like an internal fan that starts to cool it down.
Got it.
And then we throw like just like a box fan over like the clutch and on the motor pretty much to kind of help with the air flow of all of it. And
Okay.
so we it takes time to cool them down. We
Yeah.
can't really race and go again. Like, it
Yeah.
has to have a break in between because
Yeah.
of the high temperatures. But we've changed the cooling over to that water. So instead of, because we don't have the snow to get it
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, so it's just like a water circulation.
Mhm.
What I witnessed in Brainerd at the drag races there too, and tell me if this is similar to anything you do or that you've seen at your racetracks, is they actually, like to your point, have a quick connect system to tie into the cooling system, and they run like a tube of water and it goes into a cooling system through an ice chest. They actually like have like a big cooler, like almost like a big food cooler that you'd have at a picnic, and it's full of ice, and they run the water circulating it through that cooler to circulate and cool the water down. So it almost replicates what it would be like if ice and snow were hitting it, but it's separate, it's isolated separately. Is that what you use, or is that not what you use?
So it's very similar.
Okay.
We don't put any ice in there.
Okay.
We just change out the water, so it's just strictly water. But like,
Got it.
it's this big yellow water jug thing that my grandpa found, and it's completely jury rigged.
Yeah.
Like, it's not something you can buy. He's actually making another one right now
Oh,
in
funny.
the
Yeah.
shop, because we're both racing, so we have to have 2 of them. So he bought
Got
like
it.
a women's cooler, and he's gonna make that be one as well.
Very cool.
So we use like the food coolers sometimes, and then we've got one that's like a water tank that we use, and we just change the water out constantly.
Very
The
good. Very
ice
good.
actually really good. I should tell him.
Yeah, I mean, you might look into it, but they actually take like an ice chest and they fill it with ice, and then they run that cooling system down through there, and it kind of circulates the water through that cooling system, and the ice then helps cool the water down as it's circulating. So, might be something you check into. So we'll see.
I'll have to tell him.
Yep, cool. I'm going to let the audience know that if you have any questions for Kolbie about any of the things we've talked about so far, feel free to drop them in the comments, or if any of the family and friends out there think we've missed something that you want to highlight still, drop it in the comments too, and I can kind of spot that in the comments and I can bring it up in the show. But right now would be the perfect time if you have anything. Drop questions and comments for Kolbie, and while we're doing that, I'm actually going to go back to Kolbie and let's talk a little bit about being a female power sports athlete, right? Like, generally speaking, the motorsports racing industry has continued to be a male dominated sport. You being female and young. I would love to hear your perspective on what your experience has been now, getting into the, this industry, into the racing career, and you're at 19 years old now. What do you see within that becomes, maybe an advantage, maybe a challenge that you've had to overcome? And tell us a little bit about maybe some of the people you feel like you're inspiring that are following you and your fans and such too. So let's talk through that a little bit.
So obviously, being a girl in this industry isn't always the easiest. A lot of people are like, "Well, you're just a girl. How are you gonna do it?" And a lot of people doubt me. I work on my own machines, and so people don't always think that I'll know
Yeah,
what is going on because I am a female. They just don't know my history with that kind of stuff and the mechanicking that I've been doing. Um, but there's been so many men in my life and people that I have met that have supported me
it's
as
awesome.
a female racer that it's just been so amazing. I can't say like all the guys hate on me. Like there's definitely a handful of people that don't take
Yeah,
facing a girl very well, even if they win, they're still upset that I was in a male class. But most of them have been very supportive
yeah.
of it, supporting me, which is really refreshing. I watched a movie last night. I can't remember the name of it, but it was about Erica Enders, who
Okay.
is a NHRA racer, and just kind of the struggles she faced as a female racer. And it is nowhere to that extent for me because it was when NHRA first introduced the junior dragsters is when this movie was. And so I'm thankful that the world has changed enough that we can do this without a lot of hate. But like it's really awesome being able to see like I'll go down the racetrack and come back to my camp and there's these little girls that are just sitting there and they're just waiting and they have their little headphones on because it's really loud. It is insanely loud.
Yeah,
And they're just sitting there waving as I go by and I'm like, you
that's
guys,
fantastic.
yeah, that's what I love probably the most about it all is getting to inspire the little ones and just there's tell them that it's okay to be a girl and do that. And that's one of the reasons that I really enjoy being part of Off-Road Vixens is because they really support us women in doing that.
Yeah,
And so that's probably my favorite part about it all is getting to inspire the little girls to do it. And when their moms come up to me and say, I just want you to know, like, what you're doing is amazing and you've inspired my daughter and I just want to thank you. And I'm like, well, thank you. Like, it's amazing. And there's
yeah.
so much support nowadays for females in this industry that it's insane.
That's awesome. Yep, that's awesome. Very cool. So we do have a couple of questions coming in. I'm going to kind of go through some of them with you. One person asked, Rich actually Barnett here. He's from Washington. He asked, "Do you do anything, with your racing? What do you do to work on yourself personally? Do you do like weight training, any other kind of conditioning for yourself personally to be prepared for racing, or is that not necessary because you're still young and fit?"
Well, I would love to do more to like
Yeah.
be in shape. I've been trying to like run. I do at home workouts. I don't have anybody to go to the gym with,
Yeah.
so I don't go to the gym. But I stay really active. I go on hikes and stuff with my dad, and I just I don't really have a moment to do nothing, so I just stay active. I do walks. I have been going on runs quite often, and then like I said, I do at home workouts, and then I try and lift weights at home because I am a smaller female, and so I've got to keep up on that kind of stuff to be able to do what I do.
Gotcha.
Um, but yeah, I don't do as much as I'd like to, but I would say I try to go on a run at least 3 times a week to keep myself going. So
Very good. Very good. All right. So the next question is, what's the fastest you've ever been on your race sled?
so far the fastest I have gone is 109.58 miles per hour.
Okay.
My goal right now is 110. My sled is capable of going 115 in the eighth mile, which is the
Okay.
shorter, and then it is capable of going about 140 40 in the quarter.
Wow.
So
And is all of your racing just quarter mile, eighth mile? Like what is it? Like what is most of the racing you're doing? Are you doing any quarter mile stuff yet or no?
I haven't done a quarter mile yet. That'll be when we go to the Boise
Yeah.
track, which is where the
Okay.
division championship or
Yeah.
final. But I've just been doing the eighth right now,
Okay.
so there's potential of going about there on a good day at a good time about 114 to 115.
Very
But
cool.
my goal is 110. I'd be with it.
There you go. There you go. That's very cool. Question for you. This is actually a question in my mind is, and it's based on what you talked about earlier. Is the racing? Let's go like category or race by race. Like so, start with your asphalt racing first. Is it all kind of men, women all racing together, or is there a ladies class for that? Probably not. Or, I don't know. Like let's start there. Then let's go back to your oval racing and then your dirt bike racing. Do you run ladies classes, or is it always a mixed class with men and women together?
So for the NHRA drag racing that I do, it's a mixed class. So
Okay.
how they divide it is by what you're racing,
Yep.
and so there's like the sportsman's class, which you don't have to be licensed to do,
Okay.
because it's more of like your street vehicles, and then there's like you've got your pro, and then you've got super pro, and then I run in the bike sled class, so I
Yeah.
race motorcycles.
Isn't
A
that
lot of it.
awesome? Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that you're not only just racing other snowmobiles, but you're racing against motorcycles at the same time, and so that's pretty cool. So,
It's it's crazy. I didn't realize how fast motorcycles could go.
oh yeah,
But so I race them, and so it's male or female. As far as I know, I'm the only female in my class
oh
right
wow,
now I know of. So I race mostly men, including my grandpa, which will be fun. But yeah, so it could be anybody. I
that's
don't.
awesome. Very cool. So Levi has another question here. Says, and I think we answered this earlier. Maybe he missed it. Do you have a mechanic that works on your sleds, or do you do it all yourself? So it sounds like it's you and your grandparents that both help you, right? Or is there anybody else either?
So my grandpa is my main mechanic. He
Okay.
does a lot of it, and I go out there and I help him as much as I can. I do work full time, so I have to juggle it. But we spend a lot of our weekends that we're not racing working on our sleds, and so he's my main mechanic. And then, like I said, I have Paul Austin who does my clutching for me, or he did the
Yep.
original tuning of it. But mostly my grandfather is my person.
Very cool. Very cool. So do you know the name Hunter Brown? Is that maybe one of your cousins?
That is actually my cousin. Yes.
Yeah, so Hunter wants to know, and maybe he already knows, what color is your sled? That's a question that came in. So,
So my sled is purple and black. Like it's the hood of it is all black, and then there's purple flames that go
okay,
up it. It's kind of cool. It's like a darker purple, so you can't always see it. But my colors are pink and purple, so I've put pink and purple decals all over it. So it's pretty much pink and purple and black.
very cool. Okay, so Rich Barnett has another question. He says, "Have you ever had any close calls?" And I think what he means by that is accidents, any near misses with anything, or how has it been from a safety perspective?
Drag racing, I have not had any close calls quite yet. Well, it got sideways on me
Yeah,
one time when I was doing my licensing run, and it was because of the track it was catching. And so, but I was able to correct it by just getting in and out of the throttle real quick, and it corrected, and then it was fine. But not enough to like freak me out. Like, honestly, I was just like,
yeah,
nothing's happening. Oval racing, I've had multiple close calls. I did a pretty good get off this last year. I just pretty much my hand slipped off the thing and I came off my sled, and there was enough speed that my sled went up and over the berm, and
ouch.
so that was a pretty gnarly one. Yeah, I hit pretty hard, but other than and then like on the vintage ovals, you bang into a lot of people. Like they'll push off of you kind of to
Yeah.
go around a corner. But really, I mean, I've wrecked my dirt bike about 1,000 times, but
Yeah, I think that's
nothing.
I think that's in the definition of what a dirt bike is you're on it as much as you're off of it, I think sometimes. So
Yeah, yeah, but no close calls for racing for the drag racing
yep.
yet. There's a lot of potential for it because you're at high speeds and so many things could go wrong. And that's one of the big things that my grandparents worry about, and what they were very hesitant about when it came to letting me race was the danger behind it,
Yep.
because you only have so much control over your vehicle, but then like the person you're racing also only has so much control, so they could come across,
Yeah.
something could go wrong with them. Like there are so many things that
Yeah.
could go wrong.
Yeah, I mean,
So
hanging out and growing up around a racetrack in Brainerd, Minnesota, and the speeds that you get going, and having close friends who've raced, I can tell you that it's a little bit deceiving. The drag racing, you have very, very high speeds,
mhm.
but because you are literally going in a straight line, you're wearing all kinds of crazy safety equipment, and there's walls on either side to contain you if you fall off or slide off. The likelihood of you getting severely hurt while drag racing, in spite of those crazy speeds, is actually pretty low. It's probably one of the more safer types of racing that's out there, because generally speaking, you're just going in a straight line, and if something goes wrong, there's a lot of forgiveness in the area you're at. Where oval racing is, I've seen some of those circle track racing. It's like ice racing. Man, you get flying around that track, and anything goes wrong, you're going sideways into the hay bales on the side, or whatever the soft cushion is on the side, and you're going to make an impact to the wall at some point in the oval racing. So probably far more dangerous, isn't it, the oval racing?
it is to an extent. The one thing about racing a snowmobile in general, like
Yeah,
the dragsters and the cars and all that, they've got something to contain them
yeah,
and keep them there. A snowmobile, you could go flying. You've got
yeah,
really nothing. I mean, you've got a windshield, and that doesn't feel nice to hit. But you have nothing holding you on. The only thing holding you on is your hands.
yep,
And I mean, I squeeze my legs in to help me hold on, and I think
yeah,
it's just out of nerves. But that's the only thing. And
yep,
but with the vintage ovals, you definitely get going, and there's more people on the track, so you have to worry about, like, if you do come off your snowmobile, is somebody gonna hit you? Are they gonna run over you? And we
yeah,
run these pointy studs from
yeah.
Woody's traction, and if you get run over by that, it's not gonna feel nice.
Nope.
So, but they both, I'd say they're both pretty dangerous.
Yeah.
I don't know which one's more. They're both,
Probably
yeah.
just probably just walking to work in the morning, right? So life's dangerous, but you got to live it. So Lisa Palazzo says this is Nana Pirate. You'll have to explain what that means.
It's Nana Banana. Jeez.
Oh, funny. That's funny. Maybe it was a typo. We'll see. But she goes, "What is your favorite median to race? So you prefer asphalt, snow, or ice? Like, what's your favorite to race on?"
That's a hard one. I really like my vintage oval racing, but I've also been doing it longer, and
Yep.
I've made some amazing friends that have become family doing it. But I have really started to enjoy the asphalt more. I really like the high speeds of asphalt racing and the adrenaline, and I, for some reason, get less nervous doing the asphalt. So I don't know. I like them both a lot. Um,
It's like saying, which is your favorite child? Your parents probably don't have a favorite child, except for it's probably you, right? Yep, see? I knew it.
yeah.
All of your siblings say the same thing, I'm sure, about themselves. So
No, they know it's me.
they know it's you. Okay. Nice, nice. Well, let's before we wrap up the show, let's go through all of the amazing people that are supporting, sponsoring you. You probably have some thank yous you want to be handing out here like Christmas candy, right? Let's talk about all the people who've helped set you up for success. Let's start with family and friends, and then let's move into your sponsors.
Okay. Well, I'd really like to say a big thank you to my grandma and grandpa.
Yep.
Plum Nuts Racing, I couldn't do it without them. They've made it possible for me to do it, and they support it in every aspect. And my mom and my dad, they've been supportive of it since I've started. And just everybody out there that has been supportive of it, just with their comments or messaging me and say, like, hey, that's amazing. Just everybody who's said anything has been amazing. And there's so many people, but mainly my family, they support me, and they always tell me they're proud. And so my mom, my dad, my nana, my grandma, my papa, everyone. So
Very cool. And what about our sponsors? Let's talk about some of the people who are supporting you through your
yeah.
racing. So
So I'd like my sponsors. I've got Off Road Vixens, and I've got Woody's Traction. Fly Racing, and then I'm also sponsored by Max Cycle, which is a local dealer here. And they have all been amazing and have made it even more possible to do what we love to do. So
Very
thank
cool.
you to all the sponsors.
Very cool. All right. Well, anything else you want to say tonight before we wrap this up?
Thank you for the amazing opportunity.
Oh, yeah, my pleasure. Yep, my pleasure. All right, everybody. So if you've enjoyed the story here tonight and, Kolbie's story, please make sure, if you haven't already, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. That'll get you in to win some amazing prizes. We have the Mountain Lab saws that are available. And by sharing this out, and you can share it out on your personal page. If there's any of the racing pages that you guys are involved in through social media, either on Instagram or Facebook, feel free to share it over there. I think it'd be great to help tell this story. And as you do that, you'll be entered in to win some amazing prizes. And so I wrap up every show telling everybody, live large, which means live life to the fullest, make the most of every day, and make a difference to others. And hopefully we've done a little bit of that tonight for Kolbie and all of the people who are watching tonight. And finally, God bless all of you guys and have an amazing night. So Kolbie, you hang on and I'm going to wrap the show up right now. Have a great night, everybody.